Welcome, everybody, to the Paranormal Rangers. Today's episode is Mutilation, the Strange and Unknown Cases. Today we have myself, Michelle Miners, and Stanley Milford Jr. today. We're waiting on John Dover. He had some technical problems, but he should be on sooner than later, we hope, once he works that out. But we'd like to welcome everybody to our second episode on KGRA Radio and Digital Broadcasting Podcasts. We are excited to be here today to bring you another exciting episode and podcast show. Talking about our experiences with mutilations and unknown cases of other things of the paranormal subject matters. Hey, Stan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. The day started out pretty interesting in that I had a coin. I don't know if you can see it here, but there's a coin in this bag, and it apported in my bedroom this morning, and so that started out the day, and pretty interesting.
Yeah, that would be. So what happened this morning, if you want to tell the story?
Sure.
Before we drop into our new subject matter.
So I kind of slept in. It was a little bit sometime after 8, and I had gotten up to turn on a space heater within my bathroom to kind of warm that area up before I got up to shower. So I went in and turned that on, and when I came back to the bedroom light was already on, and I had sat on the edge of the bed, and at that same time, I hear what I recognize as something hitting the carpet, and or in this case, I had a suitcase that I had used recently that was sitting near the foot of my bed, and that it happened to be a coin, and it hit the suitcase and also hit the floor. So I got up and got my little reference card, photographic evidence reference card, and my cellular phone that I use for photographs like that, and I photographed it and bagged it and tagged it, so to speak.
Yeah, you keep an archive of these coins as they appear, and they seem to come into your life quite a bit. I really like that.
Hey, John. I see John's joined us.
Hi, John.
Yep.
Thank you for
Glad
coming
to have
on.
made it. I was just going to say, Stan's going to get rich in a couple of 100 years when those coins build up enough.
Yeah. Well, good to have you on the show.
So there was, I didn't detect anything negative about it. It's like, several, probably 100 times that this has occurred, and just documenting it. Later on I pulled out an old incident report form, modified it, and began writing the details of what occurred, and so it's pretty interesting, Yeah.
Well, that's a great experience to have this morning to start your day off with the paranormal sorts.
Oh, yeah.
Your famous coin stories that you go and tell.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue.
Nothing. I wasn't thinking anything about paranormal stuff or anything related. Just got up and this happened. But for me, when it happens, it takes a good 30 minutes or so just to be able to photograph it and secured it within a bag and put the information down, and or begin writing a description of what transpired and that kind of thing, just so it's documented in some way that it did occur. So.
Hey, Stan, in your book, I saw it advertised just now with HarperCollins, The Paranormal Ranger. Do you describe the story in your book? Does it, so people can go out and read about it?
I do talk about a couple of instances where this phenomenon, how it originated with an investigation that involved the apports of coins, and but there was an attachment that was formed. This case occurred in 2009, and immediately following the investigation, these apports began happening to me and to some of the other investigators. So,
yeah.
I think for me, I think I was the one that it's still happening to me to this very day.
Yeah. Well, our show today is Mutilation, the Strange and Unknown Cases. Each of us have dealt with the subject matter in our own experiences of the paranormal sort. We have a lot of content today to get through, so I just kind of want to jump into the subject matter. First of all, I had the opportunity to go to Navajo land with John Dover on an investigation with one of our nice friends, Steve Priola. He had filmed, wanted to capture the essence of anything paranormal that would happen in the Navajo Nation. And boy, did we get some subject opportunities to experience the phenomena of an unknown case. It's still one of those experiences that we're still unraveling in the investigation. But I'm going to let John give a little bit of the background, and we have those photos, John, and we'll talk about it, and then later on talk about the mutilation up in the Uinta Basin of my photos that I took.
Yeah, the area that we're talking about is up in the Chusca Mountains, near just north of Gallup and up in the Carrizos there, and near Narbona Pass. And this is an area where my family is from. And so we went up there and did some camping for a few days. And just up in the pine trees, there's aspens. We're about, I would say, 8,000 feet up there. So it's cold at night. And we went out, we took the cameras out and set them up. And Steve was doing some, I'm not sure what they call it. It's where the camera sits there and it takes a series of pictures over a period of time, and the pictures kind of freeze in there. And what he comes up with a lot of times is unusual things that happen that may be going by so fast that we can't perceive them at the time, and but they show up on film. And so we were out there near a little body of water, and kind of sitting there in the dark and watching this thing, just sitting out there and listening. And I'll let Michelle show you what we found and talk about that.
Sure. If we could look at the video that was taken by Steve. Now, remember, these are very grainy, very hard to see because we couldn't see them with our natural eye until Steve took those photos and dissected them. And we had gotten on a call with the Rangers to show what he had found. But what we did find as we were
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
what we were experiencing while we were there by the ancestral lands of John Dover's grandmother's farm, is you can look in there. This was at dusk, and if you guys go in a little bit, yeah, you will. It's really hard to see, but what was occurring here is in that is it western corner of the property across the lake, as you can see, there was some twinkling lights going up. There you go. And this occurred for about 45 minutes, according to Steve's analysis. And that was around...
You'll need to unlock your iPad first.
That occurred around the 9 o'clock, like 9 to 9:15 on to about 9:45 for about 45 minutes. But you couldn't see that with your natural eye. As I was sitting there and he was clicking his camera, he had it on automation, and I think he was using an infrared camera at the time. I started to feel something behind me, and I stood up, turned my chair around, thinking that something was going to be behind me, creeping up on me. And John noticed that I had turned my chair around to make an observation, because anything could show up, and it was dark. And as you can see here, he lightened it up as best as he could. But what had happened and what he had captured, these twinkling lights, there, as you can see right there, and then what stepped out of there were a couple of deer had come out of nowhere, and we couldn't see that with our natural eye, but he caught that on the oh, there you go, there's the little beast, little animal, the little deer.
And just so the audience understands, and for Michelle's information, these are not little deer like they have in other parts of the country. These are mule deer. They will be plus 200 pounds and big. They're really big sometimes. So what you're seeing there is deer that are showing up, and these lights tended to stick around them and just blink off and on and come out. And this area has no fireflies. There were no insects because it was too cold.
Yeah, it was a kind of an interesting night. Again, I turned around feeling like something was behind me, and being the person that I am, I had asked John if he had an ancestor by the name of Grandmother Mary, and he goes, yeah, that's my grandma's name. And I go, well, I think she's here and she wants to communicate. So, whatever the correlation to the deer showing up, the lights, the sparkling lights, precisely the time between 07 and 10 seconds in the clip, you can see the lights swooping down from the left to the right. And we do have some blown up still photos. Okay, that's the first you can see here. Kind of rudimentary. And this was in sequence to what he had uncovered. And as you can see how she is running through the stills. And this is what was caught on the film. And like John said, these lights preceded the mule deer coming in. But it was really strange, John. We never got to see the deer with our natural eye. Maybe you did. I don't know.
No, it was too dark, and the camera is actually picking up a lot of light.
Yeah, there's the infrared shot of the dark black and white photo that he...
But if you're using your Mark I eyeballs out there, then it would be just black. You wouldn't see any of this detail.
So, John, what did you find remarkable about this event? Did you feel anything different around you? Did you feel the energy different? Did you feel? I saw the twinkling. I just didn't know what that was. I thought they were fireflies, to be honest.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't have fireflies in
Mm-hmm.
that area. So, it would be, and I've lived up there for years, for different times during the summer, and we don't have fireflies. Uh, to me, if I was a kid and growing up there, fireflies would be something I'd be running around trying to catch. Um, so the little flashes of light were barely perceptible.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting out there, it's just like you see something, but it doesn't really register.
No, and then and there were noises in the back of the forest. It was a little unnerving. I wouldn't say creepy or scary. It was just a little unnerving. I felt really peaceful and safe out there. Um, but the time this was happening and me receiving, whatever the spiritual aspect of your grandmother being her presence there and wanting to communicate that she had been there. What was your thoughts about that as I was experiencing that, John?
Well, my grandmother had lived up there all her life, and all her siblings went to school and moved to other states and had their lives, and then they came back, and she kept that place up there and took care of the sheep and had cows and horses and I can remember herding sheep up there. She had about 120 sheep back in the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so she spent a lot of time up there until she got too old and she couldn't take the cold anymore. There's no electricity up there, no running water, no plumbing or anything else. It's pretty primitive, but really pretty area and a lot of natural springs. So yeah, we had that happen, and we also had a voice that came out while
Yes.
we were sitting there, and we couldn't understand what it said, and it sounded like it was coming from near maybe 50 or 60 yards away back in the forest, but it was very distinct, and but we couldn't understand what it said.
Yeah, it was a beautiful night. Sequentially, it was all the whole time we were there in the evenings. Steve would go out into this part, and as you can see, his Instagram handle is Infinite Lightworks. That's the photograph that Steve his handle there with Instagram. So appreciate you, Steve, for submitting those to us. And those are some of the investigations we do as rangers. Unfortunately, Stan, you weren't there. You had some obligations, but what are your thoughts on seeing something like this in the field of being a paranormal ranger in the Navajo Nation? Have you ever seen some fireflies?
Well, for one, where I grew up in Northeast Oklahoma, there's an abundance of fireflies in the summertime once the weather starts getting warmer, and
Mm-hmm.
really it's something that you have to uh, witness to understand the differences between what you would see with naturally occurring fireflies and what is referred to as orbs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
no, they're not, in my experience, they're not similar. I've witnessed orbs up at Canyon de Chelly and in those areas, and so for me, when people use the term orb, there's a lot of different variations to what is used with that single term. Orbs can appear in relation to haunting experiences or other like dimensional entities. It's commonly seen with Bigfoot cases and also cases related to witchcraft, sometimes within UFO cases or what is being referred to as UAP cases. There are these objects that are often referred to as an orb and have been for decades. I mean, even the term Foo Fighter goes back to a time when military pilots were observing activity of these so-called orbs or objects that could actually outperform the military aircraft at the time. And so it's interesting, but for me, it's not surprising. I think that when you factor in, this idea or concept of other dimensions and the relationship to the paranormal, that it opens up a completely huge, mind-bending world. But I find it very interesting. We talked about the coin apports earlier. I actually recorded some video where there was in my bedroom where a coin apported, and I set up a video camera and captured a orb within that. So, yeah.
Yeah, the other thing with that is number one, that area is 8,000 feet.
Right.
We do not have fireflies. I've been to Oklahoma and I've seen fireflies and caught them.
Yes.
Just for fun to show the little kids. And we don't have fireflies on Navajo in that area at all. And then it's too cold. It did get really cold at night. But as a kid, I've never seen them up there, so I don't ever refer to those lights as firefly lights. Orbs, we have seen them marble sized. We've seen them the size of a golf ball or a ping pong ball. I had one fly at my vehicle. You could perceive it out of the side of your eye, and it came right up to my vehicle and then shot back at an angle. And it was just like the blink of an eye, that fast. And then that one was red, and it was maybe a little bit smaller than a baseball. We've seen others that will be 15 feet in diameter that are zipping around, and everything in between. So lots and lots of different stuff going on.
I experienced the firefly. I liked phenomena when I was up in the Uinta Basin and doing my investigations up there. I too have seen it on certain lands in the area. I've seen it at two different locations. One being on Skinwalker Ranch. I was like, I don't think they have fireflies here in the Uinta Basin. Same issue. It's too cold. And another was a private residence of a friend of mine. The orbs, there seems to be this correlation, then something happens afterwards. You either witness a UFO incident or Bigfoot or some kind of phenomena that shows up. Up with the Ute Nation, there is a lore about the little people. So a lot of them correlate that orb, with this, as sprites, fairies. And if you go there, there's housing that they have put up for the little people. That's their lore. And you'll see it on the reservation, these bird-like homes. And so that's how they correlate that, the little people are here when you start to see these twinkling lights. And I too have been a witness to the big ones as well. May 16th, 2016, May 30th, excuse me, May 30th, 2016, I saw a huge blue orb, and when it was an intelligence, because when I said, oh, there's an orb, it disappeared wherever it went back into its vortex, or where, wherever it came from. That was a really, really distinct time that I saw the orb for the very first time in that area. So this is a really important conversation we're having, because people might have misidentified, maybe sometimes the fireflies might be some of phenomena. And in this case, with Steve at your grandmother's ancestral lands, we caught the mule deer, and it seemed to be surrounding that particular animal for whatever reason. We have no idea what that represented. So
Yeah, so we do these things. This was just a time to get away. We didn't actually go out there with the idea we're going to do an investigation. But Steve tends to bring his equipment with him anyway, and he likes to photograph nature and everything else. So he just happened to have a lot of his equipment with him. So talking about animal mutilations, we have a very interesting situation on the reservation here. The reservation has a lot of land, as you know, 17 million acres. And in that land, we don't have range separated by fences. It's all considered customary use area. The only fences they might have are to delineate districts, grazing districts. So the land is so huge, and everybody out here has livestock. So cattle just kind of roam. Everybody leaves them alone. They don't go cow punching every day. They have regular jobs like you and me. And they come home, and when it's time to take those livestock to market, they'll go out and round them up. And that's when they start finding dead remains out there. Now, granted, some of these are predator. Some of them could be hit by lightning. We just don't know. But because of the way that the livestock are handled, we don't get the reports right away. And we also had a rule. When I was working there, I wouldn't let my guys handle dead animals that were out there in the sun for more than 3 days. The reason is that we had all kinds of naturally occurring anthrax. We had bubonic plague. We had hantavirus, radiation, just a myriad of different types of environmental things that you had to be aware of. And one of those is botulism. And if you flip over a dead animal that's been laying in the sun for a while, even to read a brand, that black stuff underneath is botulism, and it can aerosolize under certain circumstances. And if you breathe that in or get it in your eyes, it can kill you. So, in fact, we try to get rid of those animals as quick as you can, because the crows actually come down and they eat on the corpses, and they get that stuff on them. And then they go to the water troughs where people have their horses and their cattle, and they drink from those waters, and those horses can get this botulism, and it'll kill them. So, just one of those things that, I'd rather be safe than have to go to a funeral.
yeah, thank you, John. Well, some of the similar things, I have 2 photographs here that I submitted today. And this is a young horse, a young colt, and its entrails on the back end were gone, and as you can see in the middle, they were gone. That is so significant of the mutilations that go on, that for some reason those two things, the stomach goes and the entrails, but in this case it was the entrails. This is a friend of mine's photo that was sent to me, and we went over and we investigated. There's no conclusions to what this was. In fact, there was another calf. It happened to, as you will see here, the local vet came and some say it's mutilation from some wild animal, but the way it was attacked it would have been all over the place. But this was just so clean, and a clean mutilation. And this was after the fact, and he said he had to put some dirt on it. And the conclusion was from the veterinary that they have seen this before, but it was just too clean for an animal attack. Another calf that they had standing next to this one, I do believe, of that animal that you just saw, they know that a laser went right through its knee, and within 15 minutes, it too just went right over and died after. And it was checked out as the laser went through one of the legs. It just died right there on site.
And typically with those animals, and what I noticed in the picture, if it's a predator attack, say by a mountain lion, might be big enough to take something like that down.
Yeah.
And a mountain lion will attack in the throat, and it kills its prey by gripping the throat and suffocating the animal.
Mm-hmm.
So, and usually when you see animals killed, a roving pack of dogs can easily take down animals, even adult cattle. But you'll see the hind end torn up really bad behind the legs, and you'll see a lot of shredded flesh there, because that's what they do, is they chase and they attack the legs. And the mutilation cases, the wounds are typically surgical in precision, almost like a laser went to work. And what they tell us, and what we found out from personal experience, is that afterwards, animals will not come near those. Horses won't go near those animals that are dead. Predators will not come and feed on them. You leave them out on the range, and they just turn to bones, but the hide will still be there. Everything's just desiccated, but nothing came to eat on them.
Yeah, as I was speaking with the individuals who took those photos and were sent to us, it was really interesting because they thought maybe that there was some technology around the area. Did I know anything going off with lasers or anything at that time? And I had heard another story about somebody owning sheep in the area, and they happened to be infant sheep, young ewes, whatever you call those, the baby sheep. And they were dying about the same time. And this happened about maybe 3 years ago, when this started to happen in the area. As you know, there are famous cases around the western part of the United States, all the way up in Seattle, Oregon. These mutilations were taking place. And for whatever reason, we don't talk much about them anymore like they did. But like you said, John, the surgical procedures that were done to these animals. And so, like you said, there's wildlife, but those entrails would have been all over the place if it were an animal attack. And then you would also find tracks as well, but there were no tracks of any kind when the veterinary went to investigate. So that's another interesting note to give the audience.
Yeah, we had a real interesting case on the reservation, on the Navajo, And this was actually before Stan and I did any of these investigations. And we had a sergeant that took a case involving some sheep in a corral. And he went over there and he told us, I distinctly remember him talking about it. He said that the sheep were killed, but it looked like something picked them up and literally grabbed the at the back of the neck and just ripped the hide right off the sheep and left it laying there. And he says a number of sheep were killed that way. And I felt that this was amazing because I had done investigations involving trains on the railroad track hitting herds of sheep. And in talking with the ATSF, what I found out was that the engineers dread hitting sheep like that because the wool, the hide are so strong that they can wrap around on a train. They call them trucks, the wheels components. And when they hit those things and they're cut up and the hide gets into the trucks, it can wrap up and actually derail a train. And I've had to do a number of investigations where, 30 or 40 sheep were killed all at once. And so, because they're Navajo sheep, we had to go out and take a look at it. And so I know how strong that wool is. And for something to just grab a sheep like that and tear the hide off is astounding. Stan, can you tell us about give a preview of your book and tell us about the case that you had?
Sure. One of the earliest cases I had as a young rookie ranger, there was a Navajo Nation veterinarian that had a case where there were 26 head of sheep that were found in this family's corral. All of the sheep were dead and had mysteriously come up that way when this man and woman that owned the animals discovered the animals early in the morning. And so all 26 head of sheep were dead. And they were, when I got on scene, the first thing I noticed as I approached the corral was a very unusual odor emanating from that scene where the animals were. And I had another experience, paranormal related experience later on in my career, where it had the same exact type of odor. And it's an odor that's very similar to a type of petroleum type of smell. And it's very nauseating and especially where you have livestock that are dead like that, it didn't fit within that. I grew up on a ranch as a kid, growing up around not necessarily sheep, but with cattle. And so this particular case was very odd. All the sheep were dead, and they were slit from their throat area all the way down in a straight line to their groin. And there was no telltale signs, as what we described earlier with predator attacks, naturally occurring predator attacks, be it a bobcat or mountain lion or even feral dogs. Or in that particular case, with almost all Navajo livestock owners, they've got dogs sheepdogs that are attached to that flock of sheep. There can be a couple of dogs all the way up to 4 or 5 dogs. In this case, there was probably 5 dogs, and but on that particular morning when this had occurred, the protective sheepdogs wouldn't come anywhere near the corral at all, and so I, in observing that over a couple of days there, I found that very odd that the sheepdogs wouldn't come around there. The dogs were checked, just to see if there was any type of blood in and around, if it had been, but that wasn't the case. And the veterinarian was really perplexed. He said he had never seen anything like this, and he was a seasoned veterinarian, and it was just one of those cases or incidents where it just don't fit. Of course, the family's extremely upset, especially one of the children of the parents that own the livestock. She was in her mid-40s, was very upset and wanted answers. But in this particular case, there was no answers. And there was no way to, you couldn't bring the sheep back,
Mm-hmm.
There was no blood in the corral, where if it had been some type of predatory kill, you would have had blood and entrails, just like you had said earlier. You would have had telltale predator indicators of the attack. And the precision in this, it was really, really, really strange, because it was as though, as often described, that if a laser had been used to open that animal up, and also the straight line in which the incision was made, it didn't appear that there was organs removed, but for me as a ranger investigator, I didn't go digging around into the animal's carcass as some veterinarians that will do a necropsy and dissect the animal. I do know the animals in that particular case, a trench was dug, and the carcasses, I believe, were burned, but it was covered back up and buried. So very interesting case. Yeah. Pretty shocking.
Yeah, it was really interesting when I was up in the Uinta Basin and I had spent a day with George Knapp. He showed me the area where one of the dogs had been completely charred, and the only thing that remained were the char outprint of the dog itself. So that was another mutilation case, a famous one up there in the Uinta Basin on Skinwalker Ranch, in the middle part of the ranch. And they said for some reason the dog's remains, there was no remains. There's just an outline of the char where the dog had been mutilated. So there are those cases too that stick out, that are well known. But for whatever reason, these technologies are being used against animal livestock. For what reason? I don't know. I know that there's a correlation to Bigfoot too. So can we talk about that a little bit, about the correlation of mutilations possibly to the Bigfoot?
I do know we had some cases in working with other investigators in and along the San Juan River,
Mm-hmm.
where there were repeated sightings by a large number of individuals having witnessed what is described, in the description of a Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And that according to those investigators and according to the witnesses, that these occurred, these animal deaths occurred in and around the sighting and or discovery of track evidence of what people refer to as a Sasquatch. You know, when these animals came up dead or found.
Yeah, we did interview a couple that lived up there, and they said that they had Bigfoot. They live right by the San Juan River, and they said Bigfoot would come to their house, and that there was a large one and some smaller ones that would come up, almost like they were a family group, and so they would take their field and leave corn in a little pile for them, which they would eat, and they would come up and visit. They had 3 horses. And they would come up and visit the horses. Now, this may seem just way out of left field, but they said that these things would braid the horses' manes. That they would come back and there were braids in the horse's mane, and so they were just kind of like, wow, you know, this is weird, and later on, another one came, and they refer to this one as the alpha male. And they were telling us during the interview that this male came in, and they don't know exactly what it did, but it killed one of their horses. And then the other ones never came back again. And after a while, another horse was killed, and they were devastated. They were just so upset because these were pets. These were horses that they kept, you know, and saw every day, and 2 of them were killed, you know, just right there, and part of the corral was destroyed, and so they ended up taking the last horse, and because they didn't want to see it killed, they took it and sold it to somebody to get it out of that area. And so we went over there, and we actually saw where the horses were buried. The hooves were still sticking out of the ground, and we saw the damage to the corral. And if you watch the Netflix Unsolved Mystery, you'll see this couple in there. And the guy's pointing to a sheet of corrugated steel. And he's saying that this Bigfoot just ripped this corrugated steel in half, you know, just tore it and damaged this heavy wire, square wire fence. And, you know, so there was definitely something going on there. It happened a while before, but they wanted somebody that had experience with that kind of stuff, and these guys did.
Yeah, you know, if you remember, we went up to New Mexico, and we had done an investigation on a Bigfoot sighting for a friend of ours. I had gotten a call from the same individual and said, you know, they had the fires up there, and that the residents were reporting, because there was so much damage to the forest, there were a lot of sightings of Bigfoot, and they were going in and attacking the livestock, and that I should bring us back up there and investigate, you know. And even the mayor of Santa Fe made an announcement that these sightings were going on, and people were reporting sightings of Bigfoot and damage to their livestock. So that would have been an interesting case to look at. But these things are all over the place, and there are some correlations to the Bigfoot being a part of that phenomena. When it's a different type of mutilation, but these are the unknown cases that a lot of people don't know about. These are unsolved mysteries.
Yeah, so we've just got a little bit of time left. Is there anything that needs to be said to wrap up today?
Well, first of all, we want to thank everybody for being here. Please go out and buy the Paranormal Ranger book with HarperCollins that Stan just recently wrote and is out there promoting his book. I will be appearing in Burlingame, California at the UFO Con 2025 at the Bay in Burlington, California. And that's where the woo woo meets wow. And that's April 4th, 5th, and 6th. So
I think that's their words, right?
yeah, the woo woo meets the wow. I like that tagline. So I will be speaking on that Sunday at noon, and come and enjoy the conference if you're in the area.
So again, thank you everybody for being there, and you make it so interesting for us to be here and talk with you.
Anything else from you guys?
I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for KGRA, and thank you for those that have joined us in watching the program and made comments and things like that. It's really appreciated.
And we'll be back.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you being here.